Hey, Heather from Mount Vernon, Washington sent a really interesting question. Heather said, what does one have to do or be to qualify as a sex addict? What's the definition? What's the difference between a sex addict and a pervert? I think this is actually pretty interesting. If we let's look at a couple definitions. Sex addiction is defined as sexual urges, behaviors, or thoughts that appear extreme in frequency or feel out of one's control. Perversion is defined as sexual behavior or desire that is considered abnormal or unacceptable. Therefore, the level of sexual desire of a sex addict is not considered normal sexual desire, and as such would be a form of perversion. Is there a line that distinguishes or differentiates sexual addiction to perverts?
Well, I mean, I guess you have to talk about the activities themselves, but I don't like this definition because according to this definition, if me, if I sit at home...
If producer Lewis sits at home.
If I sit at home and punch a pillow...
where this is going, yeah.
And punching a pillow gets me off.
Yeah.
I'm like really sexually into just punching a pillow.
Right.
I mean, then I'm a pervert.
Right, but you're not addicted to sex necessarily.
No.
Is it like a...
Because it's just, it's not the norm.
Is
so
it like an all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares type of thing? Perverts are not all sex addicts, but sex addiction is by definition a form of perversion, Natan?
Well, certainly not all people that we would probably call perverts are sex addicts. They just do other things that we would refer to as very bizarre.
Yeah.
But I just think it depends on how you define pervert. If you define it to include people who don't do any weird things sexually, but they just are addicted, quote unquote, then it is. If you don't define it that way, it isn't. It seems more of a linguistic question than like an actual one. I just think that the word pervert, when people think of it, they think of, for example, the picture we had earlier of the 3 suspects in the kidnapping.
Right.
They think of someone who's deranged.
Yeah.
Generally, people wouldn't refer to Tiger Woods or Magic Johnson with 7 women, in the 80s as a pervert.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think the way I'm leaning is sexual addiction is a form of perversion as it's defined, but not all perverts are sexually addicted. For example, if you have a fetish that you've got to build a ladder out of wood before you have sex in order to actually enjoy it, it's a perversion of sorts, but you're not addicted to sex per se.
No, of course not.
Right? Yeah.
You're just addicted to wooden ladders.
You're addicted to woodworking, yeah, which is kind of a different story altogether. All right, so Heather, hopefully we've addressed this in a way that's satisfactory.
Yeah.
Have you ever known a pervert or a sex addict?
I'm sure I have,
Right.
but they might not have disclosed that to me.
All right, we'll take a break. Mike Papantonio is joining us next to talk about deficits. Do they matter? Speaking of which, deficits are a form of a fetishism for many Republicans, but do they matter is really the question. We'll talk about that next.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.